No panic.
Appreciate it. I saw an interview with you in the Echo last week, and I wanted to get you into studio to tell our listeners your story. I suppose, can we go back to the very, very start, back to 1998, and you can take it from there, I suppose?
Yeah, so basically, in 98 I was eating a bowl of cereal, and instead of eating the cereal, for some reason I decided to bite the spoon, and I cracked my right tooth at the front, and I was brought to the local dentist, was scared witless of him, refused to sit in the chair, absolutely had a freak attack, so I had to be brought up to the Bonds in Cork. The day ward was full, so they had to admit me, and during the routine admission procedures they found that my blood pressure was up, and while they were trying to investigate that further, they decided to examine my stomach, and they found a lump in my stomach, and it turned out to be stage 4 Willem's tumour, which is a type of kidney cancer. So from there I was brought up to St John's Ward in Crumlin, where I had 9 weeks chemotherapy, then I had my left kidney removed, and then I had another 12 months chemotherapy, which was I won't say extremely interesting, but maybe that's a very, very almost kind of a too nice a way of putting it.
Yeah.
Like it's what's the best way of putting it? If you haven't had chemo, it's impossible to describe to somebody, but it's almost it's like being hit by a train. And then after that, after the chemo, I had just checkups every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, continuously out and out, make further distance between them until 2011 I got the all clear.
Great. And like, you know, like they found the tumour in your stomach, like leading up to that, had you felt sick? Had you felt anything?
No, I had no symptoms. The only symptom I had was that I sweated at night in bed, but I mean, at the time I was 6.5 years old, nobody pays attention to a 6-year-old sweating. Yeah, so I had no symptoms. No, nothing.
And like, you were 6.5 years old, and obviously it's such a vivid memory. I mean, how can a 6.5-year-old deal with that news? I just can't even contemplate.
I think it took me years to deal with it. I think kind of like at the time it was like, yeah, I've got to do this. Don't understand why I've got to do this, but I've got to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in fairness to Mom, she explained as best she could, but as you said, I was 6.5. Didn't have a clue what was going on half the time.
Were you scared?
I don't know that I knew enough to be scared. I mean, I knew there was, like, I can remember it all. Like, I can remember the first chemo session. I can remember thinking, oh, what's this coming into me now? And then the next day, the consequences of chemo, which we all know too well.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think I understood enough to be scared.
Yeah. And your mom's a nurse, is she?
She is, yeah. I think she's got 40 years nursing or 41 years nursing done now.
That must have been a huge help as well.
Yeah, thankfully now. It's definitely, like, I think I was very blessed to have Mom there as, like, with being a nurse, because she had kind of practice, and she had, like, you know, whereas somebody else whose mother mightn't have been a nurse might have panicked over something, Mom was able to be like, oh, well, you know, either A, it's not that big a deal, or, oh, actually, this is a big deal. So there was a lot of, I think anyway, there's a lot of cut out with, like, ringing doctors unnecessarily, because she could deal with a lot of it herself.
Were you in Crumlin for long?
I was in Crumlin. I was in St John's Ward of Crumlin, kind of, like, in and out from 98 to 2011. Okay. Like, stretches wise, I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember.
Yeah.
You know, like, but I'm lucky enough that I have an aunt living in Dublin, not too far down the road. So, like, I would have spent a lot of time living there as well.
Yeah, because, like, I don't know what the perception is of Crumlin Children's Hospital. Just for me, I would say it's a very tough place to be, and just from looking from the outside in, I'd imagine that it's a very sad place to be. Like, being a kid in there, like sometimes it's different. Like for me looking in from the outside, it might be completely different from what it actually is. What was it like?
It was. I honestly, and I just my hand on my heart, I had so much fun, because the nurses, the staff, they were all amazing. They did, like, you know, there's the Fix Crumlin appeal on at the moment where they're trying to upgrade the facilities. But, I mean, there was a playground, there was, this will tell you how long it goes, there was a PlayStation 1 there.
That's right, yeah. You hogging it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, there was always something to keep you entertained, and, like, I mean, I can remember one day that there was like being brought around by one of the nurses and being shown how to do all the blood pressure and stuff for other people. They do small little things like that to keep us entertained.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, like the facilities there are amazing, insofar as like the stuff they have for kids is second to none. Now, the actual building itself needs updating, and that's why they're attempting to fix it. But like, it's amazing the work they do.
Yeah, and like you still, like you say, you finished there in 2011, but it's obviously a place that's really close to your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I suppose like I've gone back a couple of times now. My oncologist has since retired, but I've gone up and I've met her for coffee a couple of times afterwards, just having a chat with her. But absolutely, if there's like, I suppose I would have, if I lived closer to Dublin, to Crumlin, I would volunteer in Crumlin, but it would be an awful trek up every once a week to volunteer up there. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, obviously the treatment is like you said, it's impossible to describe to someone who hasn't had chemo. Once you got through that, the recovery, do you remember that clearly, or was it all a bit of a haze?
I do remember it because just as recovery was beginning, I got appendicitis, so there was always something. I remember the lack of energy, the weight loss. I mean, if in the papers that like at one stage I was 2 stone, like, so I mean I was paper thin.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the weight loss, trying to catch up at school. That was, I mean, I was a nerd in school, plain and simple, like, especially in primary school when I was at my sickest, because it was an escape for me. So I was trying to catch up with everything. Like, thankfully I was never kept back or anything like that, but I do remember trying to, even like, I used to play rugby, I had to give it up because it was too, not that it was too dangerous, but it was too much of a risk that I could take a shot to the kidney.
Okay.
And also I'm not exactly the biggest person in the world.
Yeah.
But like, I do remember it.
Like, especially at that age, kids are quite funny. Because I remember when I was that age, and I'd think back and I'd be laughing because kids are so honest at that age.
Yeah.
How did they treat you?
Well, I'm very lucky in that I still hang around with the same lads that I hung around with since almost, for a few of them, since play school.
Go away, yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's a couple of lads now I've been hanging around since with play school, but they didn't, like, I mean, obviously apart from the extra precautions of, you know, look out for him, don't hurt him, like, don't knock into him or anything, they didn't really act as if there was anything different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was very lucky that way.
Fast forward to 2011 and you get the all clear.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It took me a while to come to terms with it, because, you know, from 98 to 2011 there's been this routine of checkups, blood tests, checkups, x-rays, you know, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's it, good luck, goodbye, thanks very much. I suppose I kind of went through a phase of trying to figure out, like, how to give back, you know, because not everybody is as fortunate as I was, but it's kind of, it took me, God, I'd say 18 months to come to, like, to fully realise, like, yeah, it's over with. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Lord of the Rings, but at the end when Frodo was throws the ring in, he's kind of it's finally over. I had one of those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said not initially, it took a while to process it.
Yeah, definitely took a while for me to process it.
That's amazing. And now do you have checkups or x-rays?
Blood tests once a year and that's it.
That's such a jump, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like obviously you're leading a perfectly normal life now. I mean, is it all kind of sunk in now and everything's fine?
Yeah, it has, yeah. But I mean, like, it took me a while, and it took a couple of trips back up to Crumlin to talk, like, meeting my oncologist afterwards, just for a chat. But it has sunk in. It has sunk in now, yeah. Yeah,
like, you don't have to answer this question, but those chats, like, what would they be about?
Anything, you know. I remember one of them being about the strength of Barry's, how much better Barry's tea than was Lyon's tea. But I mean, like, some of them were more personal than others. You know, but pretty much anything.
Is it just to talk to someone who was on the journey with you, kind of?
Yeah, pretty much. It was kind of like, I suppose I would have had questions that, you know, I don't know any other oncologist, like, to the extent that I knew my oncologist, so that I could come up to a question and be like, well, you know, what's the story with this or that, or
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And who was your oncologist?
Anne O'Mara. She's since retired now, but she was absolutely amazing lady.
Yeah. Obviously, since your experiences or after the experience you went through, you're kind of a spokesperson now, aren't you?
Inadvertently, I became a spokesperson. I never I never was like, when I came out of the treatment, I wasn't going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go straight back into it. I'm going to start giving talks, and I'm going to be like this kind of person who does interviews and even coming here and doing this.
Yeah.
Like when I first got through treatment, I was like, that's it. I'm burying it. I'm putting it behind me. That's it. I'll never think about this ever again. But that's the way life works. I was talking to a friend of mine who worked at the time for the Cancer Society, and they were looking for somebody to do an interview for some magazine, and I said, you know what, sure, I'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens. And it's kind of led on from there. That was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of led on from there.
And you've close connections with Daffodil Day as well, which is actually this Friday.
Yeah, so I would have started volunteering with Daffodil Day while I was still sick. Well, technically sick when I was 16, 17. I would have volunteered a bit, because obviously everywhere collects and go. And the way I grasp around Daffodil Days, without the volunteers, and there wouldn't be fundraising. Without fundraising, there wouldn't be research. Without research, there wouldn't be a cure. Well, there's no cure for the type of cancer that I had, and if there wasn't if the cure wasn't there, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So that's why I volunteer. So I suppose, I was out last year in Cork in the rain, and it was amazing to see all the other volunteers out there.
Yeah.
It's second to none, the work the volunteers put in.
And how do you find the generosity of people for Daffodil Day? It's
definitely people give, because 1 in 3 people in Ireland are diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So definitely everybody, in reality, they mightn't be affected themselves, but they'll definitely know somebody who's been affected at some stage. So it's something that's close to home for everybody. So people are always quite generous.
Yeah. And I suppose it just what you said there highlights how important awareness is, and the no makeup, no selfie thing has been just on everybody's Facebook, and fair play to the girls who are doing it, because it's a bit embarrassing at times, but I mean the amount of money they've raised, and more importantly the awareness that they've raised, has been phenomenal, hasn't it?
It has been. It's been very amazing. I remember seeing it for the first time and not knowing that as part of it you make a €4 donation to the Cancer Society. I was kind of thinking, all they're doing is taking a selfie. I thought some of the people were fishing for likes on Facebook.
Yeah.
But then when I found out that it was about, part of it was to not only raise awareness but to give a donation, I suppose it's a very cool idea. Now, I haven't done a makeup selfie yet.
Really? I was going to ask you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't done one yet. I'm waiting to be nominated. I can imagine somebody is going to nominate me now hearing this.
Yeah, so if any of Gavin's friends are listening, please nominate him for a makeup selfie. But yeah, no, it is fantastic, and it's still going on as well. It's still, the whole kind of campaign is still rolling on anyway. So there's going to be a lot more money raised.